Hey everybody, good morning. It is day 98 of spiritual healthcare. We are like creeping up on the 100 number soon within like the next couple days here, which is really, really crazy. But good morning to everyone, and it is good to see you on, as I say, day 98. It is sort of rainy and sunny here outside. I don't know what you guys are up to. It's nice to see everybody. And some really great questions that had come in from the other day, which I want to grab onto because you guys are sending in some of like the best questions. Like it's really, really cool. All the questions are just so smart and so intelligent. So welcome everyone. It's good to see everybody this morning. And yeah, we've got some really good stuff about things, external things like people are asking about, can spirits affect our moods, dreams of loved ones who have passed away, stirring up and feeding fear, all sorts of crazy things we're going to cover today, this morning. So good morning to everyone, Connor and Jay and Ed and Dan. Nice to see you guys. Nice to see everyone. I hope you guys are having a really, really good, I think it's like Tuesday or Wednesday. It's like all the days are running together now. It's crazy. Good morning to Sally. She says it's sunny in San Antonio. That's awesome. We are like, I think we're going to get sun. I can't tell. It's kind of like sunny and rainy. It's been a weird mix. And yesterday was amazing. I took Galen for a really long walk yesterday around the neighborhood. And he had a blast. He was having so much fun. So that was really, really good. I'm hoping that it will clear up enough tonight that he can go back outside and have some fun. He's such a weird snake because he doesn't like the grass at all. Like the whole expression "snake in the grass" is just a complete load of shit. Good morning to Reagan. Nice to see you. Nice to see everybody. It is good to see you guys, and I am excited and stoked to be able to chat with everyone. And as I say, we've got some really, really great info that's going to be coming up here, and really good questions that have come in about everything from fear, as I say, to dreams of loved ones who have passed away. What is that? What does that mean? As I say, draining energy, if that's possible. We'll talk about that. Just lots of really, really good questions that have come in. And I have to say, I can't thank you guys enough because this would not be happening every day if it was not for you guys coming in and participating and being amazing, because you truly, truly are. This show, every morning that we do this, it's built up because you guys are here and you guys participate and send in questions and comments, and your feedback is amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. As I say, it wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for everybody watching. So it's really humbling to see everybody come every day and just hang out and chat paranormal and spiritual tools that help to get us through the current circumstances of what's going on, because everybody, it's become sort of a cliche, I guess, a catchphrase that everybody's in this together. But we really are, and the connections that we've formed, throughout this whole experience of the pandemic and whatnot, it's really crucial to be able to push forward into this new world and arena that we're stepping into, because there's just no playbook for any of this, and we're all sort of making it little bit by little bit. So the more we do this together, the more we find these tools, the more we share what we've learned, I think the better off we will be going into whatever this new experience is gonna bring us. And I know there's I'm of course up in Canada, but I know there's a lot of turmoil that's going on in the United States right now, and I think it's just so important that we all come together and be able to support one another, no matter where we are in the world. Everybody has got their challenges with this. Good morning to Kaz, and good morning to Jennifer. Hey, nice to see you. First time here. That's awesome. Welcome. And yeah, I think it's so important that, as we move forward and learn to explore this new world, especially with, people being out of work, not being able to go back to work, maybe your industry in itself has been decimated. I know my industry right now, in terms of, the show side, the production side, is struggling terribly. There's of course always the market for the paranormal, but it's the production side of things is really struggling. So So yeah, so there's lots of people that are just, we're learning to navigate this new space. But I wanted to grab some of these questions because I thought they were great. And for those of you guys who have missed past classes, you can go to entityseeker.ca or youtube.com/entityseeker, and all of the past classes of spiritual healthcare are there, as well as my teachings with fire and whatnot as well. So they're all there for you, and they're all free. So there's that. So the first question that I got that I thought was really good, and I get this question very often, so I thought I would address it. Actually, I don't know why I haven't addressed it prior to this. It's just, but I get this one a lot at workshops and things. And the question came in from Becky via email, and she was asking, do you believe that spirits or entities can drain your energy and start to affect your mood? And Reagan says Entity Seeker was amazing in helping her. Thank you so much. And we so loved working with you. So it was an absolute joy. So thank you. Do you believe that spirits can drain energy and affect mood? So here's the thing with this, okay? Because this has gone around a lot, like a lot. And the idea is that that if you're experiencing a negative haunting or something like this, then the energy or the entity somehow has the power to change your mood, make you angry, make you upset, change your level of energy, this kind of thing. That's kind of the general idea of it. But here's the thing here's what I've found about this. Is that the people who are, for example, are experiencing negative entities or negative hauntings in some way, usually there's a pile of other things that are going on around that environment. There's everything from their own emotional struggles. So you're talking about everything from mental illness. You're talking about a whole bunch of different factors, and you've got the stress of the haunting as well. So there's a number of different things that you've got all going on at once when we're dealing with something like a negative haunting that are playing on your energy levels, your emotions, all of these different things. And you might have coupled in there something like an actual like mood disorder or something like that, such as depression, or the haunting, if it's stressful enough, can actually end up causing depression because you feel lost, you feel hurt, you feel like all of these things, and fear is taxing. I think that's one thing that people don't really understand, is that things like fear is really, really taxing. And when you're under that kind of a stress, and when you're in an environment for a long period of time that is emotionally draining, whether it be the people, whether it be you're on edge waiting for the next thing to happen, that becomes extremely exhausting. And I think from my experience and from what I've encountered is that is more often the reason for people turning around and saying, oh my God, I have just drained energy since this started. My mood's been off. I've been upset. I've been angry. I think a lot of the time that what we associate, with the paranormal, when it comes to our mood and our energy, we don't really realize just how much a stressful environment can actually end up affecting our emotional states and our moods. So I think it's something we have to be very, very conscious of, and to be able to check in with ourselves instead of initially blaming something that's external. Now, there has been plenty of cases and plenty of factors, for example, where people have, experienced or reported experiencing things like a possession state, trance state, and that kind of thing, which is something completely different. And when you get into things like trance states and things like that, that stuff is very much measurable. And it's been in the last edition of the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic Manual for Statistical Medicine. The DSM-5 has actually quantified something called possession trance disorder. So, and that was actually a colleague of mine who ended up helping to get it in there. It was a parapsychologist that ended up helping to get it in there. And the interesting thing about this And the interesting thing about possession trance disorder is the fact that you cannot be diagnosed with it, for example, if you are channeling pure positive energy. So, for example, if you are someone like Esther Hicks or Jane Roberts, or somebody who is able to go into a meditation and receive messages from non-physical, and they're happy and they're positive and they're bringing joy and they're bringing the person joy, that does not qualify as possession trance disorder. When it qualifies is that when people are finding that this is impeding their life. So when stuff is like what we're talking about, draining their energy, upsetting them, becoming violent, all of those different things. When it's impeding their life, then they start to look at something like that specific diagnosis. But so it's very interesting. It's very interesting. It's not considered a disorder until it's not normal anymore, right? But it, you can't define just channeling as not normal, because it absolutely is. So it's pretty cool. So do I think ultimately that they can drain our energy and affect our mood? And I don't think it is. I think we are really solely responsible for our emotional energy. We get to choose, and when when we can choose our thought and choose that emotional state that we can rise to, we will see a difference. We just won't be in range of that. So I really do think that we hold the sole responsibility there in our choice. Irene de la Garza here has a great question. My mother came to me in a dream. It seems so real, and is it possible that she really came to me, or is it just from a memory? This is such a great question, because it leads actually right into the next question that I got, which is, are dreams of loved ones who have passed away actually paranormal? So this is such a complicated area, because of course we have dreams that are our brains trying to sort out information, trying to process certain events, especially if they're bothersome or confusing. But at the same time, there are definitely areas where people have been receiving information in dreams. They're receiving messages. They're receiving messages from loved ones, or blocks of thought or information where they can't quite understand it. There's been brand new research into the hypnopompic and hypnagogic states of sleep. So hypnopompic is when you're coming out of sleep, and hypnagogic is when you're going into sleep, right? So that state where you're kind of half awake, kind of not. And it used to be that those states produced just hallucinations, and it was labeled that way. But there was research done recently by an amazing researcher by the name of Christine Simmons Moore, who has discovered that no, they're not all hallucinations. There's more in there than what we were willing to admit prior, and that no, it's not all hallucinations at all. And oftentimes it's during this state where like images and things like that, where you're like you're talking about with your mom and things like that, will show up. And then of course we get these dream states as well, where they're showing up and delivering messages and whatnot. My take on it, because there's a bunch of different perspectives on this. My specific take on it is, I think that when we are asleep, we are in a state of non-resistance, and when we're in a state of non-resistance, I think it makes us receptive to non-physical energy delivering things like messages. And I think sometimes it is. It's just our brain just God knows what it's doing. You start to wonder what the hell you were doing that day, because you're coming up with crazy stuff. But I think there's a lot of valid information in there, and I know myself, like I've had dreams as well where there's been somebody that has shown up that has either delivered information to me, or has come to me with something that is important or meaningful, and I think we have to gauge it on how it makes us feel. Whether or not that's real or not. I mean, we can't get into each other's heads, so we can't see it, we can't analyze it, we don't know. But I think we know. I think our inner being knows. And I think if you felt that was a real interaction, I think probably was a real interaction. And I think this is something that I think it's something we have to pay attention to. I don't think it's a I don't think these are flukes. I think, non-physical energy, especially after somebody passes away, it will find the path of least resistance, as long as you're in a state of non-resistance to communicate and chat back and forth. Kaz is saying, I had a loved one come to me to reassure me about something. Yeah, and it happens, it does happen all the time. We get stories and people talking about this, and, we know it's just through a general study that when we get people who will, report incidents and apparitions of loved ones and things like that, where they will, they're doing something so mundane, and you get these people that are out there trying to force the connection again with their loved one. They're pulling out the Ouija board, or they're, doing seances, or they're doing all these things. But interestingly, statistically, when you look at the people who have had encounters with loved ones and things like that, who have passed on, they're either usually doing the dishes, or they're watching TV, or they're doing something, they're just chilled right out, and all of a sudden they say, oh my God, I saw so-and-so, or I was getting ready for bed and so-and-so showed up, and, they're not thinking about it, they're not forcing it, they're just allowing that path of least resistance. And Patricia is saying, a memory of seeing a friend feels different than actually seeing your friend. The memory tends not to have new info, and the interaction will surprise you. Yeah, that's a really, really good point. It feels different. You can think about somebody and it feels different than having an encounter with them. That's a really great difference. And Sally was saying, when my dad passed, he came to me in a dream to tell me he was ready to go. He wanted to tell my siblings, you to tell your siblings. Yeah, absolutely. And Reagan was saying, I hear a little girl call out to me in my home. I've moved. She calls out to me and says, "Mommy," every time. Yeah, there's these amazing encounters that people have, and they can be absolutely beautiful. They're people who have had loved ones passed away, that have shown back up. Of course, since doing haunted hospitals and Paranormal 911, there's been such a plethora of these cases that I've had the pleasure to read and to offer my opinion on. And the more you see it, the more often it is with these people that have this lack of resistance. Usually when one of the nurses, if you guys have watched the shows, you'll notice that the nurses and doctors, usually when they see somebody wandering the halls, or they see an apparition or something like that, you'll notice that they're in a state of non-resistance. They're sitting at the front desk doing paperwork, and they're doing something mindless, or they're walking the halls and it's something they've done a million times, or but if you'll notice as you watch the show that this is a repeating pattern, that they're not out looking for it, they're not out expecting it, they're just in this sort of just doing their day-to-day thing, and then all of a sudden, bam, they have this incredible encounter. It's not often where you've got somebody who is actually really seeking things out and have something happen. At least when it comes to, especially when it comes to the really positive stuff, we've got to let. I always like the analogy of trying to hold a cork underwater or a balloon underwater. And sometimes things like grief and whatnot, they're kind of like that. You're trying to suppress stuff. You're trying to hold that balloon underwater. But eventually, what happens, right? When you let the balloon go, all of a sudden it bobs back up to the surface again. And the and apparitions and encountering loved ones and things like that is kind of like that. Whereas as soon as you just let that balloon go, the balloon will pop back up to the surface on its own. You don't have to do it for them. And there's nothing you have to do in order to create that. So it's a really, really interesting phenomenon, but it happens over and over again. So it's just really cool. Really, really, really interesting. Now, when we get into things like frequency and stuff like that here, like what Reagan's talking about, it's another ball game as well. So Reagan is saying that we taught her to use the radio frequency technique, but she's been speaking to the spirit and asked her to go. Not sure if she should be doing this. What do you think? So that's a great question, Reagan. I think we do oftentimes forget that, that we can have these interactions. We can just speak to them. We don't need somebody intervening. And yeah, I think, you can totally do that. Is just turn around and say, look, it is okay. It is okay. And just to say, what, set your boundary. If you don't want them there, if they're causing problems or whatever. But, we have to remember too, that they have the option to move back and forth from source energy. There is no stuck. Spirits don't get stuck. They're not, it's a great television show premise that they're, stuck with, stuck with some horrible story, but they really do come in and out and move back and forth. It's just your job to be able to set the boundary and say, what, like, if we're, I'm really, you're nice, but I really am not interested in having you around. It's time for you to, move on, or whatnot. But I think it's completely within your right to do that, and have that conversation. But at the same time, it can be a really great relationship as well. So that's the other side of it, is that, you can end up with some really, really cool interactions, and whatnot. The thing I would, as I say, caution anybody on when it comes to interacting with this stuff is to make sure that you're doing it from a place of joy, from a place of peace and whatnot, and to pay attention when those interactions are coming to you. And if those interactions are coming to you when you're kind of feeling down or depressed or anything like that, then you might want to be just wary that you're not dealing with something that is a little girl. You might be dealing with something else. If make sure you're coming at it from a place of, peace and joy, doing something that you're loving to do, that your energy is super high, so that you're coming at it from your best self, your best connection point with source, and do it that way. But yeah, as soon as people tend to do this from a state of fear sometimes as well, and that becomes a bit of a problem as well. Because ultimately, if you're doing anything from a state of fear, you're doing something from a state of resistance, and if you're doing something from a state of resistance, then you've got a whole nother problem. That will always be pushing against the thing that you want. The universe does not hear the word no. It just is inclusive. So as soon as you're putting your attention to something with resistance, you're going to get more of whatever that thing is. So Reagan is saying she's just not sure what the spirit is. That would be my litmus test for you, is to when you hear the voice, you have one of these encounters, take note of how you're feeling. If you've got stress going on in your life, if trauma that you're dealing with, if you've got any of that going on, and then you're having these encounters during times of feeling not so good, or anything like that, then I would definitely be very cautious about that. If you're having these encounters when you're kind of hanging out, state of non-resistance, you're having fun, you're kind of bipping along in life, everything's doing really well, then that's something awesome. Let's keep it up. So that's usually the litmus test. How do you feel? And how do you feel when it's happened? How are you feeling apart from the encounter is really the litmus test, and then you can kind of figure it out from there. So that being said, I have a really great reading for us today, from the amazing, actually, Ask and It Is Given, Mr. Jerry and Esther Hicks. Speaking of which, and talking about energy and draining energy and all sorts of things like that. And I thought their take on it was fantastic. So this is from the book Ask and It Is Given. It's so brilliant. It's so brilliant. It's one of my absolute favorite books. So check this out, you guys. The only form of resistance or hindrance to your connection to that which is source is offered by you from your physical perspective. Source is always fully available to you, and well-being is constantly extended to you. And often you are in the state of allowing this well-being, but sometimes you're not. We want to assist you in consciously allowing your connection more of the time. As extensions of non-physical energy, you are taking thought beyond that which has ever been before. And through contrast, you will come to conclusions or decisions. Once you align with your desire, the non-physical energy that creates worlds will flow through you, which means enthusiasm, passion, triumph. That's your destiny. From the non-physical, you created you, and now from the physical, you continue to create. We must We all must have objects of attention, desires that are ringing our bells in order to feel the fullness of who we are flowing through us for the continuation of all that is. That desire is what puts the eternalness in eternity. And I love that. I love that perspective. I think it reminds us that, you know, we got this. We really do got this. We are in control of this. We can create our reality. We can really do some incredible things. And even though sometimes the paranormal can make us feel like things are really out of control, or pandemics or everything like that, we can remember we really do create our experience, and we don't create other people's reality, but we can create our reality. And we tend to get the version of other people that we're expecting, which is like, it's never good. I mean, because we like to blame other people, but really it's like we really do pull versions of people out of them when we're interacting with them. You know, and sometimes we can notice it when we think to ourselves, oh, wait a minute, you know, I'm not like this around anyone else. Why am I only like this around this person? Well, they're kind of pulling that information or that interaction out of you, right? So, depending on what their state of expectation is. So it's very interesting. It gets all intertwined. So everybody, before we go today, let's do some peace affirmations, get our energies up, so that we can go into our day with the right vibes. So everybody take a breath. I'm a channel of peace and well-being, and my need for peace is abundantly met. I unconditionally accept, love, and appreciate myself and who I am. I recognize and am grateful for the abundance that is constantly flowing into my life, which I can choose to allow or not. I feel with every breath a sense of peace and love. I help others by maintaining and tending to my connection with Source as much as possible. This well-being is accessible to me, even in a sea of uncertainty. And at this moment, all is well. I am able to liberate myself from my past and live with peace and serenity. I can see and appreciate all the beauty and abundance of the life around me. I am able to embrace love while letting go of fear, and I find peace with the soothing silence of my inner being. And everybody take a breath. Thank you guys. And for those of you who are new, as I say, you guys can find the rest of the classes on youtube.com/entityseeker, as well as entityseeker.ca, which is always there. There's all the videos, there's all the info, everything we do, it's all there. So thank you guys again for everything. You guys are so incredible, and I will see you guys tomorrow. We've got some really cool topics tomorrow, including one about stirring up and feeding fear in hauntings. So so it's going to be really, really good. I'm really excited about it, and I will see you all tomorrow morning. Spiritual Healthcare, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.